Hi guys, welcome to Tutorial Thursday. I'm hoping to make this a series of tutorials. So today we'll be drawing this apple with Prismacolor pencils. And so if you want to find all the materials for this, you can go to my Patreon. I've included a link and everything is free on there. And that way you can download the reference photo, the swatches, everything. Anyway, so for this apple, which is a great beginner's project because it really teaches you how to layer and get used to the pencils. We are starting with warm gray 20%, and the photo I had up, which hopefully I can get up, you can go back and see it if you want, or you can download the reference photo and look at that. But basically, there are parts of this apple that look kind of gray, and so that's what I'm doing at this moment, is putting those gray shades in, and just kind of getting a base down. And the point of this is to block in colors, basically. That's really what you are starting with when you're using colored pencil, and it's also just to help you map out colors. So that's what I'm doing right now. It's just mapping out the gray. And I apologize. Oh, well, there you go. There's a reference photo again, to show you where the gray is. And I apologize that part of this is out of frame. I didn't realize that, so that's my bad. But anyway, just blocking in the grays right now. Do apologize. I think I'm coming down with something because my throat is kind of weird today. But anyway, the next color is sand. And if you look at the reference photo, there is kind of a huge area of sort of yellow, orangish in the middle of the apple. And sort of in other parts as well. But so I'm just blocking the sand sort of yellow color in at the moment. And then I'm also kind of going over the entire apple with sand because you can kind of see yellow throughout the apple as well. So you can just put a very light layer of sand everywhere. And that way, when we put the reds on top, the sand will still kind of show through. So just, yeah, a very, very light layer though. Okay, so the next color we're using is Poppy Red. And the reason this is a great color for this particular project is that this red is very bright, but also slightly orange looking. And this apple has kind of that color to it, like a almost orangey red. And then obviously if you put this color over the yellow, you're gonna get more of an orange, and that's kind of what we're going for. So we're just gonna put a light layer of poppy red over the whole apple now. But as you'll notice, it's very light layer, because the thing with the colored pencils is that you don't want to be too hard at the beginning, because you're gonna have to make a lot of layers, and if you put too much pigment down in the early stages, it's really hard to then put pigment on top of it later. And so even though these are Prismacolor and they blend super well and they're very smooth and waxy, it still makes it more difficult if you press too hard at the beginning. And the early stages of the drawing are really, again, just getting in the base layers and, shaping stuff and everything. So okay, so as you can see in this part, I am simply putting in some of these sort of shapes that we can see on the apple. They're lines or marks, and so I'm just kind of mapping those in with the poppy red, so that when we go over with other layers, we'll still hopefully be able to see those lines. But that's basically what I'm doing now. So now I'm going with Crimson Red, which is a slightly darker red, more of a traditional, I would say, bright red. And going in and going over all those lines that I made with the poppy red. And this is just to darken them up, but also to make them show up more. We're also going over the edge of the apple. And with the lines, you don't have to make them all the same in terms of like darkness or whatever. You don't want them all to look uniform. So if you see some that are darker than others, put more of the crimson red on those ones. But if you see some that are lighter, obviously leave them lighter. But that's essentially what's happening right now. Now I'm going over the whole apple. Oh, not the whole apple, sorry. Most of the apple with the crimson red. You'll want to kind of still avoid that yellow area and the other yellow area in the right-hand corner. But essentially we are now darkening up this apple because the way to do realism, to make things stand out and to look like actual objects, is to pay very good attention to your values. And by values, I mean, dark, medium, light. And so, yeah, basically that's what we're trying to establish here. Now I'm going with lilac because if you look at the reference photo, you can actually see a slight amount of purple in the apple. And so I'm trying to, looking for something, capture that with this lilac. Next, we're going in with dark brown, and the reason is to just make the shadow areas of the apple darker, and to give it a bit of richness. And so that's what I'm doing now, because if you're drawing a round object especially, you want the edges to look dark to, hit the table, to give that object dimension and to make it look, like there is another side to it. And a huge part of drawing, again, realistic objects is to pay attention to where the light is, where the dark is, because that will give you a much greater sense of dimension and the object and all that. So that's essentially what we're doing now, is also darkening up the stripes and the lines. Next, we're going in with dark umber, and the reason is that this is actually even darker than the dark brown, even though it looks lighter in the swatch that I have. So this is just to darken up, again, the shadows, the edges underneath the apple. Sorry you can't see that, but yeah. So now we're going back in with the poppy red, and the reason for this is just to brighten up the apple because it still doesn't look that exciting, right? It looks kind of dull. So we want to go back in and just really get it to where it looks in the reference photo, and make it a lot brighter. Now we're going back in with the sand, and we're just basically adding back in that yellow because we put red over it, and so we want to brighten that area up and make it more yellow again. Now we're just going back in with the cool gray 20 and adding that gray back in. Okay, now this is gonna seem odd probably, but the next color we're putting in is dark purple. And the reason for that is that the purple basically just makes the red and the brown look a lot richer and gives the apple more of a rich, I guess that's the best word for it, a rich color. But I know it's kind of weird, so just want to explain why we're doing dark purple. Okay, now I'm going in with Tuscan Red, and this is a really gorgeous, like dark reddish, almost purple. I don't even know how to explain. It's just a very pretty dark red. And we're just putting this in again to create more richness in the shadow areas and in the apple in general. And yeah. Next, we're going back in with that poppy red and we're brightening things up again. So pretty much anytime you see me pick up the poppy red, it's because I'm trying to re-brighten up the apple or add more red brightness, orange brightness to the apple. Now I'm going back in and darkening it up again with the Tuscan red. That's kind of pretty much what this project is just going back and forth with, you know, the brighter colors and the darker colors and building up layers. And so we're just building up more layers. Now I'm going with the Cool Gray 20 from the beginning and putting the shadow of the apple in. And just very lightly, don't press too hard because, you know, it's kind of a subtle shadow. It's not a super dark shadow. So yeah, just using the Cool Gray to, and then going back in the apple as well and adding that gray back in that may have gotten a bit covered up by the other colors. I would say at this point in the drawing, I am starting to press a bit harder, probably medium pressure, because we're trying to kind of blend the colors together. And this is what you would call burnishing. And it's basically just using more pressure to, yeah, blend the colors. And you can generally burnish, you know, after you get enough layers in. So now I'm using the warm gray 50% to darken up the shadow a bit. Not too much, but just add in some more darkness to it. As well as using the warm gray 50% to put some darkness in the apple itself, mostly at the top there. Because if you look at the reference photo, that's where the apple is darkest, pretty much is on the sides and on the top. Now I'm going in with white, and the purpose of this is, again, sort of to burnish some of the lighter areas, but also because there is, you know, a fair amount of white in parts of that, excuse me, parts of the apple. And so we're just trying to get those highlights in a little bit better. You know, I'm also just, yeah, anywhere you see white, you can feel free to, you know, put the white in. Oops, siren. And And also, I will be using the white to kind of burnish out the shadow as well. I believe I do that in a few seconds. And that's just because we want the shadow to look smooth. We don't want it to be obvious that it's like it looks now grainy. We want it to be more of a smooth, even shadow. And so you use the white to burnish the shadow out and make it more smooth. And actually, what I really should have done with this shadow is be more consistent with my pencil, laying my pencil down, because it would be even smoother then. You'll probably see that even after I put the white down, it's not totally even, but it's not like whatever. It doesn't have to be perfect. Nothing has to be perfect. Sorry, I heard a weird noise. Anyway, but that's something to keep in mind. If you want the shadow to look more smooth and even, just try to layer color down more evenly than I did. Now I'm going back in with the crimson red and just again darkening up stuff, adding more red into the apple itself. And that's pretty much what we'll be doing for the rest of the apple until we get to the stem and the finishing touches, is just continually, again, building layers up, because that's what will make this apple look really good. Okay, back to the layering. We're just putting more dark brown in to, again, darken up those shadows and the parts of the apple that are darker. And I do apologize. It appears that I got out of frame a bit. I don't really know how that happened, but I probably just pulled the paper too close to me. So anyway, I apologize for that, but hopefully you can get a sense of what I'm doing. Okay, so now we're just going in again, brightening stuff up with the gray, with the white, making sure that, colors that may have gotten a bit erased by other colors are still there. That's essentially what most colored pencil drawings are. Okay, now we're doing the stem. And if you look at the stem, you can kind of see that the lightest color that's showing is sort of a yellow color. So that's why we're going in with the sand first to kind of get a base down. Next, we're going to go in with the light umber. And that's just to get some of the lighter brown in. But also, if you look at the stem, some of the lighter areas are kind of light brown, almost orangey, and so the light umber helps us go over the sand and create the kind of color we're going for. Next we're going in, next we're going in, I thought it had stopped recording for some reason. Next we're going in with dark brown, and again, that's just to get some darker areas in the stem. The stem is pretty straightforward. You can actually go back and burnish it if you wish to. I don't think I did that, but you can burnish it to make it look smoother if you wish. Or you can leave it alone if you want it to look more rough. It's up to you. I then actually went in the stem with poppy red because I saw some kind of orangey red in the stem, and so I wanted to get that in there. Finally, in the stem, I went in with dark umber, which again I mentioned before is actually darker in some ways than the dark brown. And so to get the stem really, really dark, I wanted to get some of that in. I also put some of it below the stem to make the shadow area on top darker because it wasn't as dark as it should have been. I was just wiping away the bits, as some colored pencil artists say, with a brush. And then I went in with Tuscan Red again to brighten up the apple / add more red to the apple again because some of that red had gotten taken out, or parts of the apple weren't dark enough, weren't red enough. So that's what this was. Then I went back in the stem and added more sand to make sure that the yellow color was showing through enough. Oh, shit. Okay, now we're getting to the fun stuff. So, not all of it was fun, but now we're doing the finishing touches, which are using an X-Acto knife to kind of put some texture into the apple, some texture into the stem. You can do this anywhere you think you want some texture. Also, if you want to bring in the yellow, or bring the yellow out, rather, you can go over some of the areas with the X-Acto knife to bring up the yellow. And then I went in with my eraser because I felt like some of the white areas had gotten covered up too much with gray or whatever. So I went in and erased some areas and then put white back in there. Finally, I went in with a white gel pen because to brighten up the white areas, but also if you notice on the reference photo, this apple has a lot of white dots on it. And so I went in with my gel pen to put those dots in. And my original plan was actually to put the dots in with the white pen and then go over some of them with peach and with warm gray 20. But for some reason, every time I did that, my white gel pen would actually come off. And so it wasn't really working the way I wanted it to. Now, if you use something else to do this, or maybe you have a better gel pen, you might be able to do that. If not, you could also try to use like bleed proof white or something and then go over it with peach. But, you know, if it ends up being like mine and not working so well, whatever, nobody's gonna know. It's more of just a nitpicky, like, oh, some of those dots look kind of peach to me. I think I should try to put peach on top of them. But again, if it is like mine and it doesn't work, nobody actually knows what it's supposed to look like except for you. So nobody's gonna know. But yeah, that's the apple. And I hope that was helpful. And again, if you want the stuff that goes along with it, including the reference photo, the swatch, and the outline, you can find all of that on my Patreon. In the description for this video, I'll put a link to that. I'll also, put a link to all the different products I used, so you know what I did. And yeah, let me know if you'd like more of these, because I'm hoping, again, to do these every Thursday, but because they're fun and hopefully educational. So yeah, thank you for watching.